to anybody and thinking of you. My name is Kashin. Ka is flower. She is happy. I'm a resident. And I live here with my husband. And, of course, all the other residents and our son, Aichi, who is now 15 years old. So he's a teenager. So, you know, he turns lunch into breakfast. So he has a sleepover right now. Today, I would like to say a little bit about the oryoki, the way we eat, and before we eat, the way we practice eating. And I got the inspiration from listening to Roshi's talk last Saturday about the 5 practices. And Roshi was going through, this is just a small part of it. I have his notes, and those notes you can find yourself on the bulletin board in the Sangha house if you like to look at it more closely, or you can even get your own copy, I think. So those 5 practices is something we constantly come back to, and that's what keeps us going. The first one is Shushu, learning the practice which unifies the scattered mind. Learning the practice which unifies the scattering mind. So Roshi is saying that the scattered mind, we should not be bothered by it so much. And actually, it's great that it's there, because if it was not scattered, we cannot bundle it back. And that bundling is that actually is the background all the times. It is always bundled. So when one is scattered, you should not necessarily try to bring it back into the bundle. You can, but the scattering and the so-called unified mind is the same. It's right. It's said
very difficult principle, universal. The universe is principle to explain, because you let it scatter, and there's only so much it can scatter to. You don't suppress it. You watch the activity. You observe the activity of scattering. Okay, like what's happening in our minds. Let it go, and then the bundle starts naturally. We don't do anything. The bundling starts, and the bundle means it bundles together. It unifies the scattered mind, the 5 skandhas that make up the scattered, unfocused mind. It bundles it up. So that's Shushu, the first one, about practice. That's what we're doing in Zazen, unifying the scattered mind. We're not just sitting there And how do you do that? Go ahead.
The second is the shugyo, and that is cultivation. And you wrote cultivation of what? Because I'm guessing that often we have this idea of cultivation, that you are turning something into something else. If not that, we would like to improve it by cultivating something. So it's always where we are, where we stand, is not likable or desirable. We want to turn it into something. But cultivating what, it stops all that desire and maybe make you realize that everything is complete uh, as it always already is. And of course, that's a very big topic, but it's not a process. And it says moment by moment. So I remember Suzuki Roshi saying, encourage students to please don't sacrifice this very moment for something else. So I like that very much, because one thing is trying to be in the moment and be present, but sacrificing this moment is like you sacrificing your life for wishing something else was the case, or moving forward, or basically you're always somewhere else, not only in the future but also in the past. So that sacrifice of this moment is really it works for me when I think of that. The third is the Jisho, and that is the practical application of the Dharma, the teachings. And that's where I thought, maybe I can maybe say something about Oryoki. So the fourth is Shuren, is training, and the metaphor is like a blacksmith, melting and hammering, right? So in your zazen, you are, constantly melting and hammering. This being that is, basically don't really need that hammering and melting, but we seem to need it to have this kind of discipline that wakes you up, coming back to the hammering could be coming back to this very moment, like again and again and again. And the melting is that you have to drop yourself on that cushion. You cannot try to keep up or fantasize or anything. You just have to melt away basically, and accept things as it is, and just continue on doing this constant returning. And the fifth is Shuyu, and it's a cultivation, which is a nourishment. I thought that was really interesting, because often we think about nourishing somebody else, which is very important and is naturally given. If you know how to nourish this person, you will like, through and through, as we say, then you will also know how to nourish not just another person, but nourish nourish this very moment, which is, mirrored back to you in anything that you encounter. So yeah, so I got inspired by number 3, that Jishu, the practical application. I think, yeah, this oryoki it's very obvious one, but actually that the application is constantly happening, and from the moment we open our eyes, and the first thought comes, and we remember that it's just a thought, has no importance, and then you notice with which leg you leap over the edge of the bed, and on which one you are standing when you stand, and the way you walk, not the way, but the you're walking to the bathroom, is that's where you're going, and brushing your teeth, the sound of the bristle, and being there, you're actually doing a ceremony that's exactly like oryoki, but oryoki is more obvious. So I have this oryoki book from the Soto School, the headquarters, which is actually revised from Les K's oryoki instruction pamphlet. The eating bowls now in use in Zen monasteries and Zen centers have been used by monks in China and Japan for over 1,000 years. It's called oryoki. These bowls are part of the Buddhist tradition of giving and non-attachment. So, okay, I will talk more about that later. So in Japanese, the word oryoki is comprised of the 3 symbols, like your 3 kanjis, Chinese characters. And the first one is o, which is o is honorific. If you put an o in front of anything, then it's in an honorific way of addressing that thing. In tea, we even have o kashi, not kashi, which means sweet, but o kashi. So even the sweets can be seen in honor, right? Really a special treat. You are special to get to that special treat. And ryo, I'm sorry, so o is honorific, but it's also the receiver's response to the offering of the food. And second character, the ryo, is a measure or the amount to be received, but also what Shinko said is important to remember, it's about just enough. This just enough is something we have to ask ourselves, each one of us. And actually, just enough was, I guess it was no joke in really old days, because food was very scarce. So you have to share it among thousands of people, but also receiving food was practiced or thought of as medicine. So of course, one would not like take tons of medicine, then it goes the other way, not so good. And the same with food. again, that non-attachment, but just enough is also something we practice in tea, and in a form of something that's called kaiseki. Kaiseki is a very small meal that is prepared with the utmost care in taste, which is usually hardly any, very neutral, the natural taste of that mountain mushroom or whatever it is, and it's prepared as if it was Buddha itself, and then the presentation is just exquisite. So when you look at it, you awaken to the beauty of yourself, being able to recognize this being very special. So just enough. So kaiseki is also is actually taken from oryoki, as a tea ceremony originated from oryoki. The monks started to drink tea for the long hours of zazen, and it was esai, and remember esai from Myoji was esai's student, and Myoji went with Dogen to China. So Esai must have gone to China too at some point, because there he brought home a small tea bush that he planted in the courtyard of the temple complex, and it grew into a big shrub, and I believe it's still there. Like, I haven't seen it, but so the monks, grinded up the tea leaves to make matcha, green tea. So so tea comes from the practice of oryoki, and actually many other things is recognizable in the way tea is done, the form. You can see how it came from oryoki. So the kaiseki means also warm stone. So when they were hungry and they didn't have much food, then they have little warm stone they could put to their body or stomach to linger the feeling of hunger. So that's where that just enough comes from. And then the practical thing here, we did oryoki this morning, is that if you take too much, then you get stressed out, like finishing, with everybody else. So yeah, maybe that's not so nice experience. So in early Buddhist tradition, it was the usual practice for monks and nuns to attain their daily food by begging. Actually, begging existed before Buddha's time, being practiced by many religious sects. However, the idea took on a larger meaning in Buddhism, where begging became an art of offering, an exchange between monks and nuns and the lay people in general. I experienced this myself when I was training in Nagoya at the nunnery there, Aichi Senmon Nisodo. Which is Aoyama-Reverend Shundo Aoyama-roshi's training temple for female priest. Aoyama-roshi, she's the Seto of Sojiji now, which is like the second rank, just below Senji Sojiji. And I believe she even got offered the position of Senji, but I don't know if she's still thinking about it, but people say that maybe not because she's so old already. So Aichi Senmon Nisodo is a training temple that she took over from other generations of nuns. There, we have to practice takohatsu on the 21st of each month. And takohatsu is that baking or alms gathering, not for food. I guess people could put food in there, but or they could put anything in there. Usually they do a few coins, money. Actually, yeah, usually it's coins. And we actually take the Buddha bowl. Soon I will open it up and put a little cloth at the bottom because the money is kind of dirty and scratches the lacquer. But it's still done today. Amp scaling from the Buddha bowl, the actual Buddha bowl. And when there was natto for breakfast, natto is fermented soybeans that's very sticky, and but it's very hearty food. You know, it has a lot of protein. So I knew when natto was served for breakfast, I was like, oh, we are doing takohatsu today. So there's a whole way of putting on the robes. It's the same as I'm wearing, but you have to pull it up in certain ways so it stays up, kind of like a little below knee high, so you can walk. And then you have to put those straw sandals, those ancient straw sandals. And I don't think they have the look or the way they make it have changed for thousands of years. But so we have to put that on, and that in itself is really a preparation to go out and do the practice. So before we leave, so this is like a whole process. So it's like from breakfast on. So takohatsu is not like when you're just in front of the door and kind of ask for money. It's something that's on its way, if you will, days ahead. It's up to you. So that means we were a group of 20, 21, I believe. And so it's in groups. It's a little too much to go one long row with 20 people. So we are usually 2 or 3 or so, and then we meet back up. So we will go to a place that's called Nikaichi, which is like a huge temple and very famous because Shakyamuni Buddha's actual relics is in there, and people will pilgrimage there, and it's a Kendai tradition, or not Soto Zen, because they throw money into this huge wooden box in front of the altar, and of course you can't, it's blocked, so you kind of have to throw it. And it was very interesting to see that. Anyways, we've been not outside Nisodo for three and a half weeks or so, and just practice. So just that come outside of the gate was very foreign feeling. And before we leave, we have to go to Ida-ten, the kitchen god that we also have in the kitchen, also there. We have to chant the Heart Sutra in front of Ida-ten, and then also to Jisho, we take care of all the little children, and then another is what, the Sutra House, something near there. So already we start to chant the Heart Sutra non-stop, and non-stop for an hour, for a whole hour, with absolute no breaks. So so you go outside the gate. So you're wearing a big straw hat, and it covers your eyes. And we have also gloves on, and there's some kind of piece of ribbon that shows which temple you're from. And then you start to walk one foot of the other. You're crossing huge intersections, and you can't see. You just have to trust like the person that's in front of you know where they're going. And meanwhile you chant Maka Hanya Haramita Shingyo Kanti Saipo Sasukyojin Hanya Haramita Jisho Kenkon Kaiku Doi Saiku Yakushari Shi Shiki Fui Kuku Fui Shiki Shiki Fui, so on, non-stop in that tempo pretty much. And then we come to what's it, Nikaichi, where Shakyamuni's relics are, and it's actually some relics that the king of Thailand gave to Japan. So it's obviously very special. And Takohatsu also happened to be on a kind of bizarre day that Nikaichi have, which means like the long white road all the way up to the temple is full of booth and noise and good smelling food. And so it's us coming out for first time at the temple, and we have to try not to get distracted by all the smells and sounds, and just chant. And then there's a certain stops where we reach out the Buddha bowl, and usually it's done to door, but obviously here it's like there's certain spots. And then when something is put into your bowl, you're supposed to, not supposed to, you are giving blessings to the one who gives. So it's again oryoki, the giver and the receiver is one and the same, and it goes back and forth like that. And so when you receive something in your bowl, you are giving blessings in the form of a chant, and I have to memorize that chant, but I wasn't good at memorizing it, so I was just hoping nobody put anything in my bowl. So but people actually unfortunately ignore you for most of the time. And Aoyama-roshi said in the morning of Takohatsu that maybe people will ignore you, they maybe even push you or dislike you or what you're doing, but she finds it's really extremely important to still practice the Takohatsu for very various reasons. That is a whole talk in itself, but it's important to continue to doing it even in this day and age. So it's an offering, and then which goes both ways. So it's the practice of also eating, coming back to now to the ceremony of ritual of oryoki is about no clinging, and is this spontaneous giving and receiving between the giver and the one who receives. So that's what we're doing when we do oryoki. This is I try to assemble it like a meal board in a Soto, in the monks and nuns hall, where you eat and sleep and sit zazen. They have a tan, which is a raised platform where you sit, and then part of that platform is a board roughly the width of this, slightly skinnier, and that runs all the way down, and that's the meal board for eating. And when we also prepare for oryoki, we don't just plump down and open. There's a certain sequence. I remember it made really a big impression on me when the servers came and wiped off the meal board. It was done a certain way. It was really like a dance. It wasn't like, oh, it's a little dirty here, in a way has nothing to do with whether it was dirty or clean, but the act of doing it in unison and a certain prescribed way that's always done, and then run down the meal board and wipe it clean. It really, it was it was really stunning and make again big impression on me. So that makes me think about the eating, which we have to do like 3 times a day, but little do we actually notice what's going on. It's just to stuff ourselves so we can move on. It's always about moving on, get some fuel, and then do something else that's more productive or more important. So all those mundane, ordinary things we do in life is actually what is the medicine to our craziness. Our medicine, if we're there, then we actually will cure ourselves from many things. So again, so eating is every day, so we really have a chance to be there with it and practice it and cultivate it. So I'm not necessarily going through the oryoki instruction. And also you are welcome to ask as I go along, so the lap cloth, it's again, it's not a lap cloth to not dirty your clothes. It's like it's for you to practice being present. So you notice those 2 corners, and then you feel the texture, you notice the corners, how they feel a little different, you know. This is just a split second. It's not like you like dwell on it, of course, but you know, you just notice, you know, the texture, and then it opens up kind of by itself. You don't have to do anything. And Roshi, I remember once said, like when you open up the cloth, it's like throwing a net out in the ocean to catch fish, you know. And of course, you can practice that. It's not necessarily, oh, now I'm catching fish, so you know, maybe a little, but maybe it looks like that in the beginning, which is, of course, is fine. But somehow, you know, at some point, you know, it has.
Can you see that on Zoom? Okay. You can see it? No?
So I'm kind of refined into this box. This is a little shorter. So when we pick up the bowls, again, we are not ahead of ourselves. Like, oh, okay, I know it, I know it. Oh, here it goes. You know, over there, here, like this. Okay, it's straight. Again, we don't care about how fast and slow. Of course, you keep pace with everybody because you try to forget your way. You know, is the group's way, and the feeling of it, but not just the speed. You know, there's some kind of container there, and you know, like when again, it's a chance for us to be present, being there, and when we're there, then naturally there's no sounds. You're not trying to be quiet with it, but there will be no sounds if you're really there. So this is the utensil holder with the chopstick spoon and the spatula to clean. And it all points to you, even the triangle, the tip on the utensil holder points towards you. And it's not by chance. It's not because, yeah, it's like arrows pointing towards you. So you have to be, okay, awake. And Roshi, you know, I've been talking about, you know, in Kyudo, when they prepare the bow and arrow, they actually stand the arrow and and, uh, and poke it on the side. And if you're not there, then yeah, it's not so good. So same with the utensils, is pointing toward you because it's about this, the doer, this person is like, are you there or not? Okay. And Roshi even added this, like you poke on the side, because on the kidney, because it is again moment by moment. So that's why you constantly have to reinforce it and remind yourself. So when you poke yourself, it's like wake up to this very moment, and you scoot out the utensils. Okay, you notice they come out there. It's not like, oh, okay, move on. So fold it, and then we check the chopsticks. And the chopsticks are together, like the students said it's so wonderful to gather your shoes. And holding the chopsticks as is said, something about it. Okay, so you put it down. Now you say, oh, you made a sound, right, to yourself. I say, oh, I made a sound. Maybe I'm not so present. But actually, when I have that thought, it's worse than making a sound. So it's this that you constantly have to notice about yourself, your thinking mind. Okay, so here we have a wonderful practice where we can, get away from that thinking mind and actually have something sensorial with us, right? So and the tip points to the right because we're not thinking it ahead, but there's certain flow to things, right? So there's a reason why things are in a certain ways. And then we chant the Ino, set us off. Buddha was born at Kapilavastu, enlightened at Makata, taught at Paranasi, entered Nirvana at Kusinagara. Now I open Buddha Tathagata's eating bowls. May we be relieved from self-clinging with all sentient beings. I've been chanting this a million times over the years. It's like, okay, that's how we start Oryoki. Then it kind of sunk in, what is it actually I was chanting. And so now I open Buddha Tathagata's eating bowls. If you're there, then you confirm it's really true, it's not just words. And Buddha was not born some far away, and Buddha did not die at a certain time, but actually Buddha with you as one is together right now in this eating. And then we say the various Buddhas' names. And then the leader is saying, this food comes from the efforts of all sentient beings, past and present, and its 10 advantages give us physical and spiritual well-being and promote pure practice. Okay. So if you do it many times, the words, somehow seep in. So So the server comes, and in pair, you get served in pair. Which I noticed that at Nisodo in Japan, because we're in long row, then again it emphasized like it's not about you. Okay, now is this act of eating, right? So all that's going on is like getting ready to eat. It's not like, okay, something for you, for you, for you, for you, but it's like, okay, together. Okay. So it's the activity that's the important, not you getting some food so you don't feel so hungry. So then you pick up the Buddha bowl, okay, and then bring it close, in front of you and receive it. And Buddha bowl is with 2 hands, because it's natural, like 2 hands. And Buddha bowl you hold on to, like the other bowl you can put down right away, but the Buddha bowl, when you receive food, you hold on to it. And you see the bowl is curved, so you don't put your lips to it, right? Again, we honor it, and it's that kind of a reminder, okay, that what is it? What comes first? The practice or you? So constantly being reminded. So at some point, you put down the utensils, right? So again, 2 hands into the Buddha bowl. And the Buddha bowl is like Buddha's head. It actually looks like a head. It's round. It has no foot. The foot is here for the roundness to keep its balance. Okay. So it's like a head. So because it's the head with eyes and like your own, you be careful not poke into it, right? So 2 hands is again the honorific way. Okay. And then you notice when the spoon is touching, the bottom, and then you put it down. Okay. And the chopsticks. 2 hands come across, laying across, pointing at 5 o'clock. In Chi, we say, when we train, we say, oh, is it 3 o'clock? Is it 6 o'clock? Is it 9 o'clock? Is it from 12? Is it for 10? And you think, oh, come on, like, is that really so important? And say, yes, because you cannot have let's say, a ballerina or somebody who dances and have to learn to do certain steps to make them kind of leap up to this to the space, and somebody playing an instrument, you wouldn't say, oh, doing those little things that leads up to that is not important. In fact, it's one and the same thing, that all those so-called mistakes or failures, it's part of it, that there's really no difference. And so for instance, like the tea bowl, when it's returned, so the ceramic often has some kind of design. It can also be plain. That doesn't really matter. But you give the front to the guest. So the way you do that is like you turn 2 times from 2 o'clock comes to 3, back to 2 o'clock into 6. Why? It's very practical, because that means when you do that, you know for sure the front is facing this way, and then you can put it down. So there's orderliness in things because it takes less thinking. So when you have that as a habit, then really you don't have to think about much, then just do. And it's in that doing that the guest experience something really special, and that's where the host and the guest either come together or they drop away. Actually, so it's like the dance. It's just the dance, and you admire. You can't even say anything. It just there's no words to it. So but this is oryoki, and it's not tea. But if you don't study tea, that's our chance to do it anyways. Um, okay, so I would just wrap up. So we done eating, and everything is back in order, right? No trace. We know that one, right? And so we back to where we started. No, it it constantly flows. So we clean the utensils. Oh, yeah. So in the beginning, maybe it's more obvious to remember, but before we start, we have 3 fingers on each side of the bowl, right? The thumbs meeting the middle finger meeting on the other side, and then the rim of the bowl is eye level. So again, we hold it in an honorific way, but that's not so much it. But you feel something when you hold the bowl. There's a presence there. There's a presence of the bowl. There's a presence of your arms, the presence of your sight, and your spine and everything, right? So we know this is no different from zazen. Okay, we're not trying to make zazen. We are trying to be present, like in zazen. So there's a certain feeling. So you can hold it down here, but there's something you're missing, right? And you can now we've been eating at a table lately, and which is actually you say, oh, that's great because then I don't have to bend down, so it's easier. No, actually, it's a lot harder to do it at the table because you come back into your habits. you don't drop, down your utensils like this, because you don't realize it's yourself you're dropping. So you scoot it down. And this, of course, you don't need any fancy oryoki bowl to practice eating and being present at home. Knives and forks, just the way you sit at the table, the way you feel the utensils, your knife and fork, your spoon, can you feel the weight? And in tea, we have a drying cloth too that's made out of silk. And you will clean the utensils, the tea caddy for the matcha, the tea scoop that you're going to scoop the matcha up with to put in the tea bowl. So even though everything is perfectly clean, you yet clean it again in front of the guest to assure them that not that it's clean, that honoring them is complete in the sense that there's no difference. The attitude is no different from any utensils, but also from you and the guest, right? So it has really become an art, because if you're able to do that with that no mind, then something sparks. So the fukusa, how is it? I pretend, right? It's silk, so it's a lot more slick than this, right? So it hangs there, ready. And then, like take it out like that, It's like, again, from oryoki, threefold. And then pull it out. Then you have your tip, right? And let's say if it's thick tea, then take this one. And then you recognize this. And then you have a nice snap sound, and that's so all the dust comes out. And then the cloth dust is itself. You can take your object. So the movements are complete, right? No shortcuts. And then the tip, go down. You stay there, right? And then let go. But of course, Senno Ryukyu, the founder of tea, say it's a correct to try your hardest, but it's incorrect trying to do so. So again, it's that conscious mind But if you have done this thousands of times, then, you know, something happens. Okay. So, sorry, I'm gonna close up. Just looking for my name. Okay. Okay. Going from right to left, go down, go horizontal, right? Cover the upper half, and then close. Okay. So then at this point, we wait for everybody again, it's one body. Right?